Hey everyone, we are continuing chapter 8, Appendicular skeleton. We're talking about the lower legs, specifically in the femoral region. We're going to talk about the femur, the patella, and also the crural/sural region. We will talk about the tibia and the fibula. The femur is the largest bone in your body. The femur is your large thigh bone. The patella is sitting on the anterior portion of it. Let me color it a different color. Sitting on the anterior portion, nestled in a little nook that we'll see in a minute. At the anterior distal surface. And then distally, the femur articulates with the tibia. The femur does not articulate with the fibula. You can see the fibula down here. It articulates with the tibia, it does not articulate with the femur. The head, we've seen a head before, a nice round head. We saw that with the humerus. Similarly, the head of the femur fits into a socket, that acetabulum of the coxal bone. The head is large, it's smooth, it extends medially. The head faces medially. We're going to see this feature called the greater trochanter, which is only found in the femur. We haven't heard this word before, trochanter. It's protruding proximally and kind of lateral. And then it has these condyles, which you can see best from this posterior view. These condyles that fit in to the tibia. They're like knuckles that fit in and nestle in a notch of the tibia. We'll look more in complete anatomy in a second at how these features actually look, along with all the other terms that you should know. The tibia is your shin bone, and it's much bigger. It's much bigger than your fibula. With your ulna and radius, these are comparable to your ulna and radius. Your ulna and radius are about the same size. The ulna is a little bit bigger. And the ulna is more medial. The tibia is more medial and it's way bigger. It supports most of the weight, your shin bone. The fibula is more for stabilization. You can see the fibula off to the side, very skinny and narrow. It's more for support at the ankle joint, at the talocrural joint. There is an anterior border of the tibia, the sharp part of your shin. It's sharp on the anterior side, it's not sharp on the posterior side. The proximal end has these surfaces, these articular surfaces, articular condyles that fit in nicely with the condyles of the femur. So you've got condyles of the femur that are rounded, condyles of the tibia that are more like fossas, and they articulate with each other. The distal end of the tibia has a medial malleolus. You can feel that rounded part of your ankle on the medial side. That's a medial malleolus. And then the rounded part on the lateral side, that's your lateral malleolus of your fibula. Those are stabilization points for ligaments and tendons. Let's take a look at complete anatomy and we can see these and other features more closely and in different angles. Starting with the femur, let's look at the right femur. Proximal end. I'm going to isolate it, but you can see how the head fits in with the acetabulum. Anterior view. Proximal end, we can see this is the head, this is the neck. There's actually two different types of necks. We're not going to go over that. You can see the greater trochanter. pointing a little more laterally, you can see a little bit of the lesser trochanter. It's actually best seen from a posterior view. We'll get there in a second. Greater, lesser. Oh, I can't spell. Trochanter. Additionally, on the proximal end, I have to rotate this, so I'm going to clear this. Do you see this little notch that points medially? This little notch, it's called the fovea capitis, literally the little pit of the head. Fovea means little pit, capitis is the head. Fovea capitis. There's a ligament that sticks out from here and attaches to the acetabulum. So there's a ligament here that secures the head of the femur into the acetabulum. There's other ligaments that support it around it, but this is the one that's actually in the acetabulum. Fovea capitis is where you can find it. So that's medial. Posterior, once again, you can see much more clearly. This is the greater trochanter, an attachment point for muscles. And then here's the lesser trochanter. You can see that they kind of connect in this line here. More visible from a posterior view, proximal end posterior view. On the diaphysis, you can see that there's this line that goes down the backside. It's not smooth. There's this line there. The term for this line is linea aspera. Linea aspera. There's also this rough portion right here. This rough portion is the gluteal, gluteal tuberosity. Gluteal tuberosity. Both are attachment points for muscles on the posterior side of the diaphysis of the femur. If you look at the anterior side, you'll see it's very smooth. Anterior side is smooth. You can also see the curvature. Medial view. Posterior is concave. Anterior is convex. Did I say that right? I think so. Distally, look at how the condyles point backwards. Kind of like how if you're walking on your knuckles. This is a condyle. Let's look from an anterior view. This would be the medial condyle. Over here is the lateral condyle. The patella fits in right here. This is the patellar surface. It's a smooth surface for the patella to fit in. Though the back side of the patella, the posterior side of the patella, does have some texture to it, as we'll see in a minute. The term for this spot here, this is the intercondylar notch. Intercondylar notch. When we look at the tibia, we're going to see that the tibia has a protrusion of its condyle that fits in like this. It's going to complement each other. The tibia will fit into that spot. That allows the condyles of the femur to rest nicely in there. You see that patellar surface. Let's go back and take a look at the patella and how it fits in to the femur. So the right knee, anterior view, lateral view. Look at how nicely the patella fits into that spot. The patella really only articulates with the femur. The patella does not articulate with the tibia, but it does connect to the tibia with a ligament. You can see the patellar ligament right here. The patellar ligament connects from the tibia to the patella. It's a ligament, not a tendon. Bone-to-bone connection is a ligament. The shape of the patella it's a sesamoid shape, but if I isolate it, anterior view, you can see that superior is rounder, inferior is pointier. When you look down at it, so I'm looking from a superior view. Whoops. The anterior side is smooth. The posterior side has an edge to it. Kind of like a seesaw, but an uneven seesaw. If we were to just let it fall over to one side, it's going to fall to the longer side. It's going to fall that way. When I'm looking in the superior view, I can know that this is the right patella because it falls to that side. We'll get practice with this in lab. But because of the longer edge from the superior view is on my right side, this is the right patella. The opposite true would be true for the left. It would be on the left side from a superior view, the long edge. The patella is small and nice and round, acts as a great pulley for leverage of lifting up your leg, your lower leg. Your tibia, once again, you can see how the tibia fits in really nicely with the condyles of the femur. The femur is resting on the tibia. I'm going to isolate it. This protrusion, where that patellar ligament is attaching to, this is the tibial tuberosity. This is the right tibia. So let me move this a little bit. Oops. So this surface is the part of the medial condyle, and this is part of the lateral condyle. You can see that there's a bit more of a curve right here. We're looking for like really slight things, the most that we can. There's this curvature here. This is where the fibula is going to fit in. The fibula fits in right here. The anterior side has the tibial tuberosity, and the most prominent portion of the tibia, the anterior border, the sharp part of our shin. If we go more distal, you see that there's a protrusion here. That's a medial malleolus. Medial malleolus. On the distal end. There's nothing really remarkable that I want you to know on the posterior side. You can see it is a little bit curved. Posterior side, not a whole lot. That little notch up there, that's where the fibula sits in, on the proximal end. The fibula is one of the hardest, in my opinion, to figure out which side is which. So you have to look for some very, very nuanced shapes. The proximal end of the fibula is kind of round, but kind of pointy. Let me isolate it. From an anterior view, it's round yet sharp. You can see it's got this pointy end right here. It's flat diagonally on the medial side to articulate with the tibia. It's a little bit rounded on the lateral edge. It's got this funny sharp edge on the anterior side. We go distally and it's more rounded. From a lateral view, it's more rounded. Almost like that acromial end of the clavicle. This is the lateral malleolus, that rounded portion of your ankle that you can feel on the lateral portion of your ankle. Lateral malleolus. That's the only bone feature of the fibula that I'm asking you to know, but you should be able to figure out which side is which. Anterior, posterior, inferior, or proximal, distal, left or right. Let's look at all that in context with each other. This time on the other side. Tibia and fibula. The medial and lateral malleolus. Medial, lateral. You can see they form this joint with the ankle bone, this first ankle bone, the talus, which we'll go over in the next video. The fibula is long, slender, has a sharp diagonal edge up here, and a little bit rounded on the lateral portion. All right, that is the femur, the patella, the tibia, and the fibula. In the next video, the final one of this chapter, chapter 8, we'll go over bones of the ankles, the tarsals, and the feet. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Leave questions and comments in the discussion.